In August 1931, a submarine embarked on a bold mission to explore the Arctic, venturing to the farthest reaches of the known world. This expedition sought to unlock the secrets of a vast frozen wilderness that had remained largely unexplored. Aboard the submarine were courageous explorers, eager to delve into the mysteries of the Arctic, led by the seasoned Australian adventurer Sir Hubert Wilkins. Their goal wasn't merely to reach the North Pole, but to investigate the hidden world beneath the ice using a revolutionary exploration machine. They were determined to travel thousands of kilometers under the ice, enduring cramped quarters and freezing temperatures. However, as the journey extended from days into weeks, the expedition's challenges became increasingly apparent. For centuries, explorers had attempted to conquer the North Pole, a feat as dangerous as it was alluring. Early expeditions involved wooden ships that braved the icy seas, often becoming trapped and leaving their crews at the mercy of the elements. Many of these explorers perished, their dreams frozen in time. Later efforts using dog sleds or attempting the journey on foot were equally perilous, frequently ending in tragedy. The harsh environment of the Arctic claimed the lives of many adventurers over the years. The first undisputed arrival at the North Pole didn't occur until 1926, achieved by airship, leaving the polar depths still unexplored. Wilkins, a seasoned explorer with a daring vision, believed that a submarine was the most suitable vessel to penetrate the Arctic's icy fortress. Unlike the South Pole, which sits on a continental landmass, the North Pole lies in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, beneath a thick crust of shifting ice. Wilkins envisioned the submarine as an ideal platform for carrying out scientific investigations of the Arctic's hidden mysteries. The plan was to begin the journey in the summer, sailing across the Atlantic to the Arctic Circle, then charting a course westward for over 3,000 kilometers. The mission would involve navigating beneath the ice for 6 weeks, surfacing through natural openings, and ultimately finishing in Alaska. To finance this ambitious expedition, Wilkins invested his own savings and sought additional funds through public lectures and a book detailing his plans. However, it still wasn't enough. He needed substantial financial backing and knew that turning his scientific quest into a sensational media event could attract the necessary support. He partnered with William Randolph Hearst, a newspaper magnate known for his sensationalist journalism, securing exclusive publishing rights in exchange for funding. Hearst orchestrated a dramatic conclusion. The massive Graf Zeppelin airship would meet Wilkins at the North Pole, capturing the public's imagination with headlines proclaiming the dual conquest of the pole from both air and sea. If successful, Hearst promised a $150,000 reward. With this support secured, Wilkins chose the Nautilus, a retired World War I-era attack submarine, for this groundbreaking expedition. The Nautilus, heavily modified by the renowned naval architect Simon Lake, was far from an ordinary vessel. The mission posed unprecedented challenges, including the threat of colliding with thick sea ice. To mitigate this risk, Lake reinforced the submarine's bow with heavy steel plates and concrete, adding a hydraulic impact absorber to soften potential blows. But the dangers didn't end there. The ice above also posed a significant threat, prompting Lake to equip the sub with sledge runners, enabling it to glide along the underside of the ice like a toboggan. A hydraulic retractable guide arm was installed to help navigate around obstacles. One of the greatest concerns was the necessity of surfacing for air and to recharge batteries. Without accessible openings in the ice, the crew could be trapped. To address this, Lake designed a series of drills capable of boring through up to 20 feet of ice, ensuring the Nautilus could reach the surface. He also replaced the original torpedo tubes with a pressurized diving chamber, allowing the crew to lower instruments to the ocean floor or conduct dives for data collection. Simon Lake implemented dozens of modifications to transform the Nautilus for its new mission. Originally built for warfare, the submarine was now outfitted to withstand the harsh elements of the Arctic. On March 16, 1931, as the expedition prepared to depart, Wilkins faced the press with confidence. "The men are just having things on board now for the final inspection before leaving the dockyard. We expect in about 6 or 8 months to have made the trip 2,000 miles under the ice, starting from Spitsbergen somewhere about the 1st of July. Despite his outward confidence, Wilkins privately harbored doubts. He was concerned that some of the sub's new features were unnecessary or even hazardous. The sledge runners, the ice drills, and the shock absorber, each modification brought new uncertainties, and Wilkins worried that they might get stuck in the ice, trapping the Nautilus beneath the surface. One particularly contentious issue was Wilkins's desire to install a photosensitive electrical cell to measure the ice thickness above, ensuring safe surfacing points. However, Simon Lake, who leased the Nautilus from the U.S. Navy and had the final say on modifications, denied this request. Wilkins had no choice but to accept the submarine as it was, despite his concerns. The experimental features led to numerous problems even before the expedition began, repeatedly forcing the sub back to port for repairs. The ice drills failed during initial testing, requiring the assistance of another engineering firm. As weeks turned into months, the pressure mounted on Wilkins. To meet the Graf Zeppelin at the North Pole and secure Hearst's prize money, the Nautilus needed to set sail. By June, despite ongoing mechanical issues, Wilkins decided it was time to begin the journey. The voyage across the Atlantic was grueling. The small submarine was buffeted by fierce North Atlantic storms, and the crew quickly discovered how uncomfortable the Nautilus was. Already cramped and claustrophobic, the sub was now packed with supplies for the expedition, leaving even less space. 20 men shared a single toilet located between two roaring diesel engines, and they spent their days standing, as there were no seats. Only a few shared bunks provided any relief. Wilkins sent daily radio updates to Hearst, detailing the harrowing journey. "This morning, an extra heavy wave swept the deck and carried away the screen before the bridge," he reported. Nearly everyone was seasick, and when the bilge pump failed, sewage, oil, and vomit began to slosh around the crew's feet. As the Nautilus battled the Atlantic, things deteriorated further. "The fourth cylinder of our starboard engine is badly cracked." With one engine down, the Nautilus limped forward. On June 13th, radio updates ceased, leaving everyone in the dark about the submarine's fate. On June 15th, the battleship Wyoming discovered the Nautilus adrift about 1,000 kilometers northeast of the Azores. Both engines had failed, and the batteries were dead. Wilkins faced the humiliation of having his submarine towed across the Atlantic. 4 crew members quit, and the Nautilus required major repairs. Waiting for parts from the United States would take weeks, making it impossible to catch up with the Graf Zeppelin. The opportunity to claim Hearst's prize money slipped away, and the media ridiculed Wilkins's expedition. Under mounting pressure with a malfunctioning submarine and a demoralized crew, and winter fast approaching, Wilkins seemed on the brink of failure. Yet he refused to give up. On July 28th, months behind schedule, the expedition set off for the North Pole. Despite the Nautilus's ongoing issues, the crew had become adept at making repairs on the go. By August 15th, they reached the last inhabited land before the Arctic, and Wilkins sent out optimistic updates. On August 19th, the Nautilus encountered the first ice floes. To celebrate, the crew took a break from the cramped conditions to collect scientific data. Hearst relayed fascinating discoveries back home, such as a warmer layer of water deep below the surface, crucial for weather predictions. After a week in the ice, the Nautilus reached 82 degrees north, further than any vessel had ever gone under its own power. It seemed Wilkins might achieve his goal of traveling 1,000 kilometers under the ice. However, the situation on board was dire. The crew was exhausted and freezing. The Nautilus had no heat or insulation, and only bare metal separated them from the icy waters. They were constantly ill from food poisoning and lead exposure from the submarine's pipes. Attempting to reach the pole this late in the season was perilous, and the entire crew wanted to turn back and go home. Everyone except Wilkins was ready to give up. But on August 22nd, he ordered the Nautilus to dive beneath the ice. The submarine refused. The diving rudder, essential for vertical movement underwater, was unresponsive. When a diver inspected it, he found that the rudder had disappeared. Whether it had fallen off unnoticed or, as Wilkins suspected, had been sabotaged by a crew member desperate to end the expedition, remains a mystery. By this point, even Hearst publicly urged Wilkins to return home. Privately, however, the Hearst Corporation pressured him to press on to the pole, reminding him of their agreement. Wilkins faced an impossible choice: return home to certain failure and financial ruin, or press on, risking the lives of the crew. On August 31st, he made the fateful decision to proceed. The ballast tanks were flooded, and the trim set to 2 degrees down, forcing the Nautilus to submerge by ramming under the ice. The sound of the sledge runners scraping against the ice reverberated through the sub as if it were being torn apart. It seemed as though Wilkins had lost his mind. The crippled sub couldn't possibly reach the pole. Yet, driven by a desire to prove a point, they pushed on for several kilometers before attempting to test the ice drills. For hours, the crew struggled to bore through just a few feet of ice. Each time, Simon Lake's patented drill jammed. It was hopeless. On September 6th, Wilkins finally sent the radio transmission everyone had been waiting for. "Our Arctic trip is over." He had taken the Nautilus where no submarine had ever ventured before. But it would be another 3 decades before anyone successfully traversed the Arctic under the ice. In 1958, the nuclear-powered USS Nautilus made the first polar crossing, returning home to great fanfare. By then, Wilkins's attempt was a largely forgotten chapter in history. The original Nautilus now lies at the bottom of the ocean off the coast of Norway, deliberately scuttled after being deemed too worn and damaged to be preserved. Before the Nautilus expedition, Wilkins was hailed as one of the greatest explorers of the 20th century, making significant contributions to our understanding of the North and South Poles. But his final expedition left him financially ruined and his reputation tarnished. He passed away at the age of 70, his achievements overshadowed by the tragic end of his Arctic adventure. In a final homage, the crew of the USS Skate scattered his ashes at the North Pole, fulfilling his last wish and ensuring that a piece of his adventurous spirit would forever remain in the icy heart of the Arctic.